One of the most famous events within English history was the Great Fire of London. On Sunday the 2nd of September 1666, the inferno began within the capital of England, and it lasted around 4 days, finally dying out on Thursday the 6th of September. The fire itself rampaged through the streets of London and gutted the medieval city of London, destroying around 13,000 homes and important buildings including St Paul's Cathedral. It was estimated that 80,000 people's homes were destroyed, and the capital had already suffered the year before from a devastating bout of plague that hit. Today it's most commonly believed that the fire began in a bakery on Pudding Lane, a street not too far from the Tower of London. However, there was one man in particular who was blamed for the Great Fire, and for this he was executed. Today it's believed that Robert Hubert, the watchmaker from Normandy who was hanged for his crimes, was an innocent man, or was rather mentally ill. So join us today as we look at the brutal execution of Robert Hubert, the Firestarter of the Great Fire of London. But before we begin, today's video is sponsored by Raid Shadow Legends, the incredible video game that's taking mobile and PC gaming by storm. Use my links below to download Raid for yourself to your mobile phone or PC. One thing you'll know about Raid Shadow Legends is that it's got a huge amount of champions, over 600 now, and it's also got tons of unique and brilliant bosses. One of my favourite bosses is Sir Galaroth, the Guardian of the Arcane Keep. He's actually a rather nice boss guarding the arcane potions, but he's very strong. His mechanic is his basic attack, but it deals lots of damage to any champion without buffs. What I personally love about Raid Shadow Legends is the different mechanics of the different dungeon bosses, and also jumping into a couple of PvP arena battles and testing out your skills. Summoning champions at the tavern is also rather cool, as well as reviewing a number of your favourite champions and assessing their skills. In the past month, Raid released a huge new Doom Tower update, with 2 new incredible bosses to take on, Astranix the Dark Fae and Bommel the Dreadhorn. There's also new secret rooms and new artifact sets to win. There's also plenty of new events and tournaments to play. Now join me and thousands of other players getting stuck into Raid Shadow Legends. If you want a head start in Raid, all you have to do is hit the link in the description or scan my QR code and you'll get an epic hero Chonaru, who is amazing in the Doom Tower, 200k silver, 1 XP boost, 1 energy refill and 1 ancient shard so you can summon an awesome champion as soon as you get in the game, and I will see you in the game. In the 1660s, London was the biggest city in Britain and one of the largest in Europe. There was a significant amount of urban sprawl, but there was a large area of around 700 acres surrounded by the city wall and the River Thames. It was within here that the Great Fire of London really took hold. Britain at the time had recently been ruled over as a republic following the English Civil War, but after Oliver Cromwell's death the monarchy was restored. Charles II was invited onto the throne, but during the Great Plague of 1665 he was criticised due to his decision to leave London for his safety. London needed a leader at the time who was strong and could take decisive action, but it was in 1666 it was a great time of pressure for Charles II. His hedonistic lifestyle needed to be matched with strong and disciplined leadership. Within the city of London were streets of overcrowded and narrow alleys, where many buildings overhanged and were made from wood and other cheap materials. People at the time were not as aware as they could have been about the dangers of fire, and many of the buildings had been covered in pitch, a flammable substance. The close proximity of the buildings and the overcrowding nature of the city also allowed London to become a perfect place for a fire to take hold, as some houses were even touching. The summer of 1666 was also very long and dry, and the city possibly suffered from a drought. Water was rather scarce, and the wood on the houses had dried out, making them easily to ignite, and also along with this there was no official fire brigade. The fire broke out at Thomas Farriner's bakery situated on Pudding Lane shortly after midnight on Sunday the 2nd of September 1666. Pudding Lane itself is a rather small street that can be found between East Cheap and Thames Street within the City of London. Farriner's bakery stood opposite a monument which today commemorates the Great Fire. Fires within cities were rather common, but after the blaze began at Farriner's bakery, the decision was made to demolish houses to prevent the spread. The Lord Mayor of London, Sir Thomas Bloodworth, was fetched and he gave his permission, but he refused as many of the owners of these particular houses could not be found as their properties were rented. If the mayor would have made the decision to demolish, then it's likely that the fire would have been very contained and would not have spread. Famous diarist Samuel Pepys was even warned that night of the fire, but he did not seem too concerned by it. However, in the morning he viewed the fire from a turret nearby. At this stage on the Sunday morning, 300 houses had been destroyed and the fire had reached the banks of the River Thames. Because of the high winds, the fire continued to spread and many people left London for their safety, taking their belongings, which led to roads being jammed. As Monday the 3rd of September began, the fire was travelling north and west, pushed by the winds, and it even torched houses on London Bridge, which worried many that it would spread to the south side of the river. The fire rampaged through the bankers' houses on Lombard Street, as well as taking out the Royal Exchange and many more shops on Cheapside. The devastation was growing, as was suspicion about who began the inferno. Accusations began to turn towards Catholics, and there were stories of foreign spies who were allegedly seen throwing fireballs onto houses. On Monday there was a degree of organised firefighting initiated, and Charles II placed his brother, James the Duke of York, in charge of operations. Charles himself ordered demolitions, and through their actions they won the favour and admiration of the people. On Tuesday the 4th of September the devastation was incredibly severe. Posts were set up to supposedly stop the fire, but this did not happen. The fire jumped across the River Fleet, flanking the firefighters, and Cheapside was laid to waste, but St Paul's Cathedral, which was seen as a safe haven and a site of refuge, was next to become engulfed. Many of the crypts had been stocks full of goods and important books. However, quickly the fire took St Paul's and the cathedral was destroyed. It was on Tuesday that the fire spread east towards the Tower of London, which had been filled with tons of gunpowder, and should the fire have hit the Royal Palace, it would have been blown to smithereens. However, the fire breaks worked there. On Wednesday the wind did drop, and London was left in ruins. The fire had died down, but there was still a manner of smaller fires burning. These were extinguished on a Sunday as the rain fell. However, thousands had been left homeless. In the aftermath of the fire, the price of bread rose, and there was a great fear amongst the victims of foreign terrorists and an invasion. A rumour also began about an invasion from the French and Dutch, and this sparked a mob to rise up looking to murder foreigners and pillage whatever they could. It was clear a full-scale rebellion inside the capital was about to happen, and people wanted answers. People in London began to look for scapegoats, and one of them was a watchmaker from France named Robert Hubert. It was claimed within London that Robert Hubert was actually a Catholic spy working on behalf of the Pope, and that he had been sent to start the Great Fire of London. In the years previously, the Church of England had been restored, which was now mostly Protestant, so this anti-Catholic sentiment was born from this. Robert Hubert was arrested at Romford after the fire and was allegedly held on suspicion of attempting to flee the city. The belief at the time was that the fire began at Thomas Farriner's bakery, but it was alleged that Robert Hubert had firebombed the bakery, producing a fireball and throwing it through a window. It was claimed that he could have thrown a grenade or a Molotov-style device into the open window. When Hubert was questioned, he confessed to setting fire to the bakery and claimed to have worked with accomplices to sabotage the effort to extinguish the fire. Hubert, however, was never really the most convincing. He was a man who, considered by today's standards, would have been considered mentally ill, and it's assumed today that he assumed guilt in order to impress people and feel liked. He may also have not even been in London when the fire broke out, as it's alleged he arrived in the country 2 days after the fire began, having actually been in Sweden. Also, he did not have a clear indication of what Farriner's bakery looked like, and he was adjudged to have been so injured or disabled physically that he could not even have thrown a grenade. His confession was one that was unfair, and proves he was not a well man. He claimed that he had gone to Pudding Lane and lit a ball of gunpowder, brimstone and flammable materials at the end of a pole and pushed it through the window. His accomplice ran off, but Hubert stayed. However, it was clear that this was false. There was actually no window where Hubert claims he had put the pole, and there was no trace of an accomplice ever found. Hubert was tried at the Old Bailey in the October sessions, and during his trial different details of his story had been changed, and he said he'd been given 5 pistols as a reward for the fire. Hubert was also seen by the jury as deranged, and King Charles II was even told that the most senior judge in England did not believe the confession. It's probable that torture was used to obtain his confession, but the people needed someone to punish. The contradictions kept coming, but the Farriners as a family, the bakers where the fire started, would even testify against Hubert, pinning the blame on the mentally ill watchmaker to absolve themselves. It was said that Hubert only accused upon his own confession, yet neither the judges nor any present at the trial did believe him guilty, that he was a poor, distracted wretch, weary of his life, and chose to part with it in his own way. The jury said he did not have the fear of God before his eyes, but was moved and led away by the instigation of the devil, and based on his confession, Robert Hubert was sentenced to death. On the 27th of October 1666, Robert Hubert was taken from prison to Tyburn, the famous place of execution in London where so many were killed over the years. It was a common place for hangings to take place, and the crowd who came to witness the execution of Robert Hubert smelt blood. They wanted someone to pay for their suffering, and Hubert was the man who would pay the ultimate price. He was taken to the gallows at Tyburn and paraded in front of a huge crowd. The executioner led him up to the gallows and placed a noose around his neck in front of the bloodthirsty civilians. The executioner then hanged Robert Hubert in front of the crowd, where the man struggled for a number of minutes before he was declared dead. It was then reported by the Venetian ambassador, who saw the proceedings, that as Hubert's body was taken, it was to be given to barber surgeons for experimentation, and the angry crowd rushed forward. They grabbed the body of Robert Hubert and subsequently tore it to pieces for the crimes he'd allegedly committed with starting the Great Fire. The scene would have been an absolute bloodbath. So the Great Fire of London was one of the most important events in British history. However, the execution of Robert Hubert was greatly troubled. He was a man who clearly was not stable, and it was found after his execution it wasn't even in London when the fire began. His brutal execution and what happened to him echoed the desperation and anger that the people of London had, for they wanted a scapegoat and someone to pay for the fire. Sadly, it was Robert Hubert who fitted that mould, and who strangely would admit to starting the Great Fire of London. Once again, thanks for watching. To support our channel, please make sure to subscribe, and once again, thank you so much for watching.